My name is Tom. I'm one of the developers of Stonehearth, our first game as a studio. It is a simulation strategy game set in a medieval, voxel-y kind of 16-bit world. So when I start the game, I get to pick, do I want to play kind of the actual game, or do I just want to chill out and not have threats like combat or starvation or things like that. I'll pick a normal game. And the world of Stonehearth is procedurally generated. So we have forest and mountains and plains, and those are all sort of built on, sort of a mathematical model to simulate the real world, but then kind of, take it down to sort of a 16-bit feel. So as I mouse over the map, I can pick, or I can see sort of on the right, the kinds of resources that'll be available to me. Trees and plants are really important to build things. Wood is the most important resource in our game. And then there are other resources like wildlife, which will provide food and things like that. And then minerals, which you'll need to sort of go up the tech tree and advance to something that's like stone or you know what I mean. So we can get going here. And now the game in the background is, of course, building our map, making those forest plains, things like that.
So, I mean, looking at the game, looking at the map, it feels like there's kind of a SimCity vibe, and the graphics are kind of Minecrafty. What were the inspirations?
Yeah, so from a gameplay perspective, our #1 inspiration is definitely Dwarf Fortress. We want a game where it's very much sandbox sim, where it's sort of putting in a lot of very sophisticated simulations and then letting you just sort of play around with them. It's a game about building towns, whereas Dwarf Fortress is, if you've heard of that game, it's about building sort of subterranean caverns. We're sort of focused above ground, but we definitely have mining as well. And then aesthetically, we're going for sort of a 16-bit RPG feel, where we want you to feel like you're sort of building one of the towns that you might have visited if you've played like an old 16-bit RPG. So I've got my initial band of settlers here. And in this game, I never direct any of them directly. I always sort of orchestrate and tell them what to do, and then they figure out a way to do it. Each one of my settlers is randomly generated, and we're sort of bringing in RPG-light mechanics to sort of a simulation game. So they have their name, each one has their own statistics, mind, body, spirit. They have equipment, they have their own personality. And the first thing I need to do when I get going in the game is harvest some resources. So like I said, wood is our primary resource, so I'll tell them to chop down some trees. And over here, I've set up a stockpile. So that'll tell them to pick up stuff off the ground and store it over here. And I can sort of set up what I want to store in this thing. Right now I'll just have everything. So after resource gathering, I can actually start to build things. And we really want this to be a game where you can build whatever you want, but we understand that not everyone is an artist. So I can start with sort of a template that I've got. So I can say, take a little cottage and just sort of rotate it the right way and stamp it down, right? I get an overview of what this thing is going to cost. It's going to cost some wood and some other things. And then I can tell my little guys to build it. And when they do, they're going to build this building voxel by voxel. And this is what we think is one of the core appeals of the game, is that your little settlers are really smart, and we don't fake anything in the simulation. So they're digging out the foundation, and then you'll see them sort of build up the columns, and then they'll eventually build up the rest of the building. Now to finish my house, I need to do things like make a door and a window and some beds. And to do that, I'll need to specialize some of my workers. So right now, all these you can see in the corner here, they're the worker class. And the worker is sort of an unspecialized base hauler and builder. You can't really do much, but I can take one of them. And you can see we have a saw here. I can specialize my workers by giving them a tool. So I'll grab Tibber over here and change his class. You can see we have lots of classes available. Some are available now, others will be available later. And because I have a saw, I can turn him into a carpenter. When I do that, he'll sort of run over here, grab his saw, and promote himself. Right. Boom, Tibber is now a carpenter. And so by the merits of being a carpenter give him new abilities. So he has the ability to make a workshop, sort of do that. And now from his workshop, he can craft a lot of stuff. So here are all the recipes he has access to. First, he has tools and weapons, and I can use these tools to further specialize my citizens. Sort of the pattern is you take a worker and you give him a tool, and that specializes him into sort of a specialized class, a little RPG light stuff. So I can make a hoe. so that we can have some farmers. And then I will make sort of the things that I need to build this house. I'm going to need a couple of windows and a couple of beds. Just jam those out. And so my carpenter is crafting, my builders are building. Now the next thing I need to worry about is probably a food supply. So to do that, I will specialize another one of my citizens with this trapper's knife. So let's grab, let's see, who are you? Vo. Vo would make a great trapper. I don't know that, but I'm guessing. If I really wanted to sort of be very careful about this, I could sort of look at her stats and say, oh, you know, she has 4 body stat, which is above our average, so she'll be kind of faster than average. I can tell that because her speed attribute is sort of based on her body attribute. So she would make a good trapper, because the trapper sort of is going to be doing a lot of running around.
How do the characters level up?
Right, so the characters level up just by doing their normal activities. So as Tibber is crafting things, he'll level up. And we actually have a set of perks that you get as you level up. So by virtue of being level 1, we start at level 0. Tibber can now craft more stuff. As he goes up different levels, he'll be able to make more rare items and eventually even upgrade into future classes. So that's sort of the way that we handle our tech tree. Rather than researching, you sort of level up your citizens in an RPG light type way. Looks like I'm almost out of wood, so let me chop down one more tree. And now I have a trapper, but how does she trap? Well, because you never direct your citizens directly, it's sort of more of a planning. You're planning out sort of the layout of your town and how it's going to work. We use zones. So I can say, hey, I'm going to zone this area of ground to be for trapping. And when I do that, Vo, our trapper, will sort of run over there and say, okay, she's going to look for prey. Right, so she sort of surveys the landscape, right? Oops. That wasn't a good spot, but she's looking for a place to drop some traps to catch some critters. So she's sort of setting out her traps, and she'll do that automatically. If I want to, I can turn this zone off when I don't want her to do that. But now she's sort of off and going off on her own, doing what she needs to do. So this is sort of the core mechanic of the game. The way we think of your citizens are almost like, here, let's see, what can you do? Let's make some more stuff. Make a couple of lanterns. We're gonna need those.
So you mentioned people are also able to craft and create their own things. How does that work?
Yeah, exactly. So this is a building that I just slapped down because whatever, it looks good and you know, I want to do it quickly. If I want to take more time, I can take as much time as I need to implement or to my own plan. So this is our building designer tool, and you can like sort of drag out a floor plan. So say I want maybe like an inn type of a building. I can sort of just drag out boxes, and we liken this to drawing on graph paper. That's sort of the way we want it to feel. And then once I have that, I can quickly raise walls around it. Okay, and then say I wanted this to be like a really big tavern. I can draw a second level over here. And then just really, you know, sort of quickly, using these primitives, just, you know, build up the building, right? If I want to edit pieces, I can sort of change the roof color, do whatever I want, carve in doors and windows.
So is it just going to put the stairs in automatically?
No, so, right. Right now we don't support stairs. We will very soon. But for now, if I wanted to have stairs for the second level, I could like sort of put them in myself. So carve out a hole here and then draw the stairs in. So the tools that I've been showing you so far are sort of like our macros, sort of helpers, but we do have free-form, I guess, voxel editing. So I can come in here and just like, you know, add, if I wanted to add, I don't know, like some kind of like symbol on top of this thing, right? I can just come in and click, 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 right? And so through a combination of, I guess, the macro tools and, you know, voxel by voxel editing, you can really sort of make whatever you wanted. Here I made kind of an ugly tavern. When I'm finished, I'll get an overview. Oh, this is what you said to build. This is the resource cost to build it. But what we've seen players building already is like, you know, all kinds of stuff, from like statues to pirate ships to, you know, anything that you can sort of put together in your head, they'll figure out how to build. And then let's see. Oh, I made hose. I didn't mean to make this. Let's make some lanterns. There we go. So I mean, the core of the game in the beginning is just getting a foothold, figuring out how you're gonna supply food to your settlers, figuring out the right balance between food and defense, and actually building things, which is kind of the fun part. And it's sort of like an RTS style trade-off, very light RTS style mechanics, where it's, do I focus on army, do I focus on economy? And how that plays out in the rest of the game will be determined by where you chose to settle. Is this a place that's easily defended? Am I doing things that will attract enemies?
So there's some kind of danger as well.
That's right, there is some kind of danger. So we have sort of what we call an AI game master running around in the background, who's constantly looking at what you're building. How many people do you have? What's the overall net worth of your town? Where did you actually choose to settle? And based on all those factors, the game master will throw sort of scripted encounters at you. And it could be like a trader who wants to trade with you, or it could be something dangerous, like a band of goblins that has come to basically take your stuff. Or we have very lightweight diplomacy. Well, maybe they'll come and say, oh, you have some things that we want. Would you like to give those things to us? And then you'll have the choice. So this is sort of the start of the game. I have a previous game that I've got queued up, which is from maybe like about 6 hours of play. And this is a town where I've expanded up to 12 settlers and built a couple of buildings and just to show off sort of all the features we have in the game. So here's a farmer, and she's got we've got fields of pumpkins and corn and whatever, I think those are turnips. And that's my primary food supply, which has allowed me to get up to 12 settlers. And then over here we have sort of a bigger keep. I can hit this button to look inside the buildings. So I've built this sort of two-story building, and the bottom story is set up to be a vault. So I have sort of a bunch of chests of gold coins that I've gotten by trading with surrounding merchants. And then, although we are focused on above ground building, we do support mining. So if we go way over here, and I'll slice into the world, I've set up sort of I guess, subterranean cavern here where we've got like kind of a dorm going and a bunch of just fun things. So if you want to focus on above ground building houses and stuff, that's cool. If you want to go below ground and sort of carve into the mountains, that's up to you as well. And then you mentioned danger. So over here, so this is my town. Doing pretty good. Over here is a band of goblins that have set up shop specifically to sort of take my stuff. And they have a mini boss, Chief Ray Blood Painter, and I can sort of look at what he's want. So he came to me and he said, where's our stuff, right? So he wanted me to give him a little bit of tin ore and some squirrel pelts, and I don't have the stuff for him. So at this point, I have to say, you know what, I don't have it. Right, there's a little bit of dialogue, ha ha ha. And at this point, I'm sort of at war with the goblins, and they won't do anything right away, not something so, I guess, obvious. But at this point, they will every now and then send raids to take the stuff that I refuse to give them. And that's sort of how we're introducing combat into the game. It's definitely a game about sort of creative building and exploring simulation, like the water simulation and things like that. But we do have a combat element, but it's not an RTS. It's not really about the combat. The combat's just sort of there to give a sense of danger and drive the story of your town.
So when you're leveling up characters, can they have multiple classes? Does your leveling carry across like a single one? So if you switch a class, do you have to start from the beginning? Or
yeah, so your characters can each occupy one class at one time, but you can change that. So at this point, Pony is a footman. She's a level 1 footman, so she's done a little bit of fighting. I can change her to a farmer, and at which point she'll sort of put down her sword and pick up the trowel or the hoe, and now she's a farmer, and she could change back. And look, she still has her shield. That's a bit of a bug. Great, but her level is separate between farmer and footman, right? And so we want you to be able to like move. Now she's going off and doing farming things with her shield. gaining experience bit by bit for every crop she gets. The trick is the experience you need to reach, say, level 1 to level 2, that goes up per level of every class. So because she's already leveled up a few levels as a footman, it's going to take her longer to achieve that next level as a farmer. So we're trying to strike a balance between giving you the flexibility to move people around, but not making the best way to play the game to like make everyone a farmer when you need food, and then when an invasion comes, turn everyone into a footman with no penalty. So we want you to make choices, but the choices don't have to be like totally final. Yeah. One thing about your characters is that we really want you to think of them as like individual human beings, and give them a lot of personality. So they all keep a journal, and this is sort of the sum of all their journals put together. What they like about your town, what they would improve, and so if you really want to if you're a min-maxer and you really want to get like the highest morale and have everybody be super happy, this is something that you can look at and see, what do people need? This is something that you can ignore and still, play the game just fine. But if you're all about sort of maxing out, our scores, and right now we keep track of your net worth, how happy are your people? How well are they fed, and how well are they sheltered?
What's the benefit?
The benefit. These are requirements to gaining new citizens. If you pay no attention to this, you'll be stuck at 7 for the whole game, and eventually people will starve to death. So that's no good. So beyond like expanding your town, your citizens will start to do things when they are particularly happy. If they're really happy and you have a great food supply, they'll sort of join together and hold like a feast. So we call those festivals. It's really kind of, I guess, ambient behavior, new ambient behaviors that they'll do as a reward for you, like doing something particularly well. It's a game that's, I don't want to say it's hard to lose, but if you pay attention and you're paying attention to your town, you're not going to get like clubbed over the head, 5 hours into the game and then there's a game over. It's sort of we want to keep you on your toes, but not give you really challenging content. It really is sort of a game that I think of as kind of zen, where it's like, let me build and explore and just sort of have fun.
Cool. Well, so the game is called Stonehearth. I think a lot of people will probably automatically make a connection to Hearthstone and maybe just assume by the name that it is a card game knockoff of some type. Why did you decide to stay with Stonehearth, and are you concerned at all about that being confusing?
Yeah, so we named Stonehearth back in 2012. Came up with the name, loved it. It took us a long time to come up with the name. And then 6 months later or something, we found out about Blizzard's new card game, which was kind of disappointing. And so we announced on our blog, hey, we're going to change the name. And our fans said, no, don't change the name. Stonehearth is a perfect name. We love it. It's great for the game. And we want you to keep it. And we like the name too. So we went with them. We're not really worried about confusion, although, it's a funny joke and it comes up all the time. The games are so radically different that we've never been confused for Hearthstone or vice versa. I'm quite sure. Yeah. One thing that my brother Tony and I are really passionate about is modding and the value that players can bring to a game as they develop content for the game, whether it's intentional or not. So for Stonehearth, we baked in modding support in its bones, and we want people to mod the game. We want to make it easy to mod the game, and the game ships with some of the modding tools that we use internally and all the game APIs and things like that. And this is a mod that one of our players has already made. This person really wanted to make like a Candyland game, and so they came in and changed all the assets and a lot of the models. So as I harvest these like candy lollipop things, they drop sugar cubes instead of logs. And this is just the start of the mod, but this person's vision is to like, make basically a total conversion of like, a game about building in a Candyland. And so, modding is something that we think can be a great way for the development team to sort of share ideas with the fans and vice versa. And we actively work with the modders to make sure that they have the support they need. And you know, just excited to see what other gamers will come up with.
Cool.